Feel great devouring Big Mac flavors as creamy, high-protein pasta with a fresh side salad. We're making Big Mac sauce to go on the salad and in the creamy Greek yogurt pasta sauce for maximum flavor. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla. If you love healthier recipes that taste amazing, then you are in the right place. Now you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below. And that will take you to the full recipe with all the details, including nutrition facts, ingredients and substitutions, and frequently asked questions. We're going to start by making a really tasty Big Mac sauce because we're going to use some of it as our salad dressing as well as in our pasta sauce. So in a small bowl, I'm going to add half a cup of some full-fat Greek yogurt. Next, we'll add 2 tablespoons of some avocado oil, but you could also use light olive oil. Next, I'm going to use a teaspoon of mustard powder, but you could also use jarred mustard. And for a touch of natural sweetness, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. You could also use honey. And for a little tang and flavor, I'm going to add a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, but you could use white vinegar instead. And for seasonings, we're going to add half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, and half a teaspoon of paprika. Then we'll add about 1/4 teaspoon salt and a dash of pepper. And then we simply stir it together until it's well combined. And I have a pot of boiling water behind me that I'm going to add 2 cups of my protein pasta to. And you could use any pasta that you like. I love using these new protein varieties just to be able to get that extra protein. Now we can brown up our Big Mac burger meat. So I'm just using my deep hex-clad hybrid pan, but you can use any skillet that you like. And I'm just bringing it over a medium-high heat. And then I'm going to pour in about 2 tablespoons of some light olive oil. We'll give that a minute to get nice and warm. Next, we're going to add 1 pound of ground beef. And I'm just going to start to spread this out with my spatula. And then we're going to sprinkle in our seasonings, which is 1 teaspoon of some paprika, 1 teaspoon of some garlic powder. Now in the recipe, I'm going to say half a teaspoon of salt, but I know that we like to have our meat a little bit on the saltier side, so I'm actually going to add almost closer to 1 teaspoon of salt. But you can adjust accordingly. And we'll add a few dashes of pepper. And to add a little more flavor, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of some Worcestershire sauce. And then I'll just kind of give these a good stir to spread those seasonings into the meat. Next, we're going to add half a cup of chopped onion, which is equal to about 1/4 of an onion. I'll just quickly stir those in, and then we'll just let this cook for a couple minutes, stirring it occasionally until our meat is cooked through. Well, now that our meat is almost all the way cooked through, I know that this only has about 2 minutes left. So now is an excellent time to add in some pickles. Now this is optional, but really gives it that classic Big Mac flavor. So I'm just going to spread those right on top and just kind of stir those in so they can get nice and warm. We're not trying to cook them, just trying to get them heated up. Well, now we can tell all of our meat is cooked through, so this is done. So I'll go ahead and turn off our heat. And then I want to drain off some of that extra grease that's in the bottom of the pan because this is where we're going to assemble our pasta. So I'm just going to put on my lid and then take this over to my sink and drain off the extra grease. So now that I've drained off the extra grease, I'm going to go ahead and just leave my lid on it to keep it nice and warm. And then I'll let this hang out on a back burner until we're ready to assemble the pasta. Well, our pasta just finished boiling behind us, so I'm going to go ahead and drain this in my sink and then pour it back into my pan. So I poured this into the colander, drained off the liquid, and then put the pasta back into the pan, but I don't want the pasta to stick together, so I'm just going to pour in about a tablespoon of some light olive oil, mix that around, and then I'll put on the lid and just let this hang out until we have our cheese sauce made. So to make this really easy cheese sauce, we're going to start with our saucepan and we're going to bring it over a medium heat. And then I'm just going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter. And we'll just let those start to melt on the bottom. And then we're going to add in 3 minced cloves of garlic. And for some seasoning, we'll add half a teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll stir this in and let it cook for about a minute or 2, just until the garlic is nice and fragrant and bloomed. So after about 1.5 minutes, I can tell by the smell that my garlic is fully bloomed. So now I'm going to pour in almost all of 1.5 cups of milk. And you can use any milk that you like, including almond milk. So I'm going to leave about 1/4 of a cup of the milk inside of my bowl. And then I'll just simply add in 1 tablespoon of some cornstarch. And this is going to thicken our sauce without having to create a roux first with flour. I find this method is really easy and it makes it gluten-free if you need it. And then we'll just stir the cornstarch in with a fork until it's dissolved. And then we can just add this to our saucepan. And then I'm just going to whisk it real gently. And then we're going to let this come to a simmer for about 4 to 5 minutes to activate the cornstarch and until the sauce thickens a little. Now we're going to add the best part, which is 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, but you could use any cheese that you like, and 2 cups is 5 ounces of cheese. And then we're just going to stir this until the cheese is all melted in. We don't have to cook it further, just melt it all together. Now here's the secret to incorporating Greek yogurt into your sauces. If Greek yogurt simmers or boils and gets too hot, it will separate and become really lumpy. So what you have to do is add your Greek yogurt in after your sauce is cooked. So now that our sauce is thickened and our cheese is melted, we're going to turn off the heat. And then we're going to add in 1/2 cup of some plain Greek yogurt, as well as about 1/3 cup of our Big Mac sauce. And that also had Greek yogurt in it, which is why we had to wait until our heat was turned off. And now we simply whisk them together. So as you can see, it's only taking about 30 seconds to whisk in that Greek yogurt, and it is smooth and creamy and no curdled texture. So now we can come back to our pan of cooked pasta that was just hanging out on the burner with the lid on it so it's still nice and warm. And then we're just going to pour in our cheese sauce. Now, if you could use more healthy inspiration on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the video description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected and for me to keep sending you delicious inspiration. So now we can just stir this together. Now it's going to seem like you have a lot of sauce and we have to remember that this is also going to be mixed in with all of our ground beef, and that pasta is going to soak up that sauce as they hang out together. And now we can take our pot of cooked meat and add our pasta to the pan. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. And then we can just stir this all together, and then this is ready to serve. Now this wouldn't truly be a Big Mac without adding some lettuce and tomato. So I've just taken a bowl and added some shredded lettuce, as well as some diced tomatoes. And then we'll sprinkle on a little more cheddar cheese. And this is when you'll thank me for having extra Big Mac sauce, because this is now the dressing for the salad. So we'll drizzle just a little bit of this on top. And now we're ready to serve. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some pasta on my plate. And then to give it the perfect final touch to make it look like a true Big Mac is to sprinkle on just a few little sesame seeds. Because essentially the pasta is just replacing our bun. And I think I'll add a few to my salad. It is time for a sample. That is delicious. So that was the bite with the cheeseburger, and now we got the lettuce and tomato. As soon as you bite into the pasta, you get all those classic cheesy Big Mac cheeseburger flavors. The ground beef is just perfectly seasoned and juicy, and that sauce is just so cheesy and has a little bit of tang to it. And I love adding the pickles in there, and then the onions just give a little more flavor and texture. And then following it up with that fresh salad just seals the deal. That dressing is so delicious, it's sweet and tangy. That is seriously the best Big Mac flavor I've ever had, and I love that it's made with clean ingredients, and it's gonna make me feel great even after I eat it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. I've included a link to the full recipe and video, and it's in the video description below, and that will take you to my website, gentletomming.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.